What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another video, and in today's video we are going to be taking a look at something a little bit different from our normally scheduled programming, because of course we are going to be talking about Seven Knights 2. So I wanted to go ahead and cut a quick video today just to give you guys just a quick overview of some of the different in-game modes and some of the different things that this game has to offer. By no means am I going to be going majorly in depth in this video into all these different things. In fact, I'm just going to try to fit in as much as I can about the general overall gameplay of this game as possible in this video today, and just kind of do a first impressions. Now, of course, if you guys are going to be part of my community, you already know I really enjoy this game and have been playing the hell out of it for the past week or so now. But I wanted to make a video real quick just giving you guys a brief overview of the game before I start getting into guides, because that is going to be the next step here on the channel, as I am going to be starting to do guides on this game. So I am going to just be doing, starting from the beginning to the intermediate to the more advanced. I am going to be giving you guys as many in-depth breakdowns on how you should be playing this game, what you should be prioritizing, what you should be spending on, and so on and so forth as possible going forward here on the channel. So in today's video, I'm going to give you guys just a brief overview of everything and give you guys as much information on the basics as possible as far as what you'll be looking at out of the box. And then later on throughout the next couple of weeks, we will be getting into guides. Now, if you guys want to leave questions in the comment section down below, I will definitely do a Q&A on this game and give you guys some answers to some of these bigger, harder hitting questions later on in a separate video, and I'll even go ahead and answer some of them in the comment section down below. So if you guys have questions, or you have things that you are wondering about that you want me to cover here on the channel going forward about Seven Knights 2, let me know in the comment section and I will sift through those, and like I said, I will try to get to as many of those as I can. Otherwise, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and answer some of them in a later Q&A video. But with all of that being said, you guys, if you enjoy this game as much as I do, definitely leave a comment in the comment section. If you want to hop on over to my Discord, link is in the description. But with all of that being said, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into my first impressions and my general overview of Seven Knights 2. What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another Seven Knights 2 video. Yeah, that's right, you guys, this is not going to be a King of Fighters All-Star video. In today's video, we are going to be taking a look at Seven Knights 2 in all of its glory and giving you guys a 1,000-yard view of what this game has to offer and whether or not it is worth picking up. Now, spoiler alert for those of you who have been in my Discord recently over the course of the past week, you would probably already know that I have been extremely high on this game, and I've been having a whole hell of a lot of fun with it, and I am going to explain to you guys in today's video just why I enjoy this game as much as I do, and the things that I am finding in this game that might end up making this one of the better game releases on mobile this year. So before we get into all of that and more, make sure if you guys haven't already done so, you smash that like button and subscribe, and let's go ahead and take a look at Seven Knights 2. So as you guys can see here, I am currently doing the normal story mode. Now, I did backtrack a little bit for this just so that way you guys could get a little bit of an idea of how gorgeous this game can actually be playing from a mobile device. Now, of course, I play on a Asus ROG 3. Now, you guys may end up playing on a lesser grade phone, at which point the graphics may end up being a little bit less than what you're seeing here. And in fact, I actually have my settings for my graphics turned to the medium to low settings, just so that way, even with the Snapdragon that I have, I don't have to worry about my battery draining completely whenever I'm playing this game, because it can be quite intensive. However, you do have a lot of control over the in-game settings, from your graphics to your sound to everything in between, so you have plenty of different options. However, if you're somebody that is part of the PC master race, you'll be happy to know that there is a PC client for this game, so you don't necessarily have to worry about going out and doing anything too fancy. If you're wanting to play this on a PC, you can go ahead and do so right out of the box, no big deal. Now, when it comes to Seven Knights 2, what is Seven Knights 2? Well, Seven Knights 2 is basically going to be a dungeon crawling RPG game. Now, it is not necessarily an MMO because you're not going to, as you guys may have noticed as I'm going through here in the overworld, there really isn't going to be a bunch of other players walking around or interacting with you. That is something that is not going to be a big part of this game. There are of course going to be things that you can play with other players, and there's going to be plenty of ways you can interact with people. However, this isn't going to be a natural MMO in the sense that you're going to be in this giant overworld with a bunch of other players in the community walking around doing similar things, inviting you to parties constantly, and so on and so forth. Instead, this game is going to be more of what you're seeing here, and you can actually, as you guys are seeing, auto through a lot of this game. However, keep in mind that at the beginning, when you're doing the easy difficulty, because the way that this game's story is structured, whenever you start the game, you are automatically going to have to play through the entire story mode, of which there are 9 chapters currently. You're going to have to play through it on easy mode. Once you have beaten easy mode, you can go ahead and unlock hard or normal mode, and then hard mode, and so on and so forth. I'll go ahead and show that to you guys here. So as you can see, I am on the normal difficulty currently. I have gotten all the way, I believe I am on the final chapter. I'm getting pretty close to being done with normal. Yeah, so we're on Lizardria, so I'm getting pretty close to being done with this. But as you guys can see here, this is the easy difficulty. I have already taken care of all of that and completed it. So now I am on to the normal difficulty, and after I finish that, I will unlock hard mode and very hard mode. And the overall increase in the power creep from one mode to the next is pretty steep, I'm not going to lie to you guys. On easy mode, you're probably going to find that you're not having a ton of trouble, especially considering the fact that for free-to-play players, there are a ton of characters that are going to be of the lower grade rarity. There are even still to this day, a year later, in the Korean side of the game, going to be some of the better characters in the game for things such as story mode or your dungeons or so on and so forth. So in general, you don't really necessarily have to worry about spending a whole lot of money on this game. Now, if you are a whale, of course, there are plenty of in-game packages that you can purchase and things that you can pick up in that regard to get yourself a little bit ahead, but you don't necessarily need to do that. However, as you guys can see, graphically, this game is beautiful, and one of the things that I do want to point out briefly before I start getting into menus and showing you guys some of these other game modes is the story mode of this game is excellent, and the overall voice acting quality is amazing. So if you guys are into things such as, I would compare this very closely to a game like Final Fantasy, or at least some of the newer Final Fantasies. This game is going to have some excellent voice acting. It's actually going to have a very engaging story. So in general, I would definitely recommend to you guys, don't skip through the different cutscenes, especially the cinematic ones, because those are really, really nice. But in general, once you get into the game and you play that opening sequence and you see just kind of how beautiful this game can be and how good and high quality the voice acting can be at times, you're probably going to get a little bit hooked into that, and you'll probably find yourself wanting to sit through these cutscenes, which is kind of surprising for a mobile game because you don't see that very often. But in general, it's going to come down to how much you're invested into that sort of thing. I know some people enjoy that type of thing, and other people just want to get into the game as quickly as possible and start taking down minions and bosses. So in general, really what you're doing in a dungeon crawler like this is you're going through these different missions, and you will see what your mission is over here to the left hand side. But basically, you're going to be able to go into these different missions, and most of the time you're going to be playing with your own party that you create yourself. I'm going to go ahead and skip this here so that way I can show you guys. So you are going to have your own team formation. Now, as you guys can see here, this is the team that I currently am rocking, and this is going to be my roster down here. And you can always take a look at everybody on your own roster, and you can also, if you want to go back to the main menu, take a look at the entire roster. Or what you can do is you can go into heroes here, and you can scroll through, and you will be able to see whether or not you have them or not. You'll still be able to see a bunch of these other characters here, so you'll be able to take a look at the characters that you'll be chasing undoubtedly individually on some of these banners. However, I would say that in general, and I'm going to be doing a bunch of different guides for this game and giving you guys a lot of different pointers over the course of the next couple of weeks, but largely there are going to be several different rarities when it comes to the top tier rarities. The top tier rarities are going to be your Legendary Plus characters, kind of like we see with Elena's Sword Cassette here. She is going to be a character that is the top tier rarity, and you can pull her off banners along with all of these other characters, but they do tend to have some pretty low rates for those Legendary Plus tiers. If I had one major complaint about this game, it would be the fact that the Legendary Plus tier characters, their pull rates are abysmal, but as you guys can see by the amount of regular legendary characters I have on my roster, you shouldn't necessarily have a majorly hard time getting these. They aren't anything that is super low as far as the overall drop rates. It's just when you get into that tier above them that things start to get a little bit dicey. But overall, these are going to be your characters. You can see their loadouts. I have all of my gear here displayed on my Spike. So as you guys can see, I am going to be running this set here on him, which is the Problem Solver's Helm and the Problem Solver's Dagger, so on and so forth. All of them are going to have the Problem Solver in front of them, meaning and indicating that they are all part of the same set, and they are of course going to have a matching set effect. So this is something that you won't really want to kind of worry about too much at the very beginning, but later on as you level up and get deeper into the story, this becomes more and more of a normal RPG where you're going to want to min-max and pay attention to what you're attaching to these characters and try to make sure that you're staying on top of things like your enhancements, your transcending, and so on and so forth. But in general, there's plenty of different ways you can build characters. Of course, you can level up your characters with these XP pots or just playing through the story or some of the different types of in-game dungeons and gain XP that way. Otherwise, the other way that you build characters and kind of limit break their levels, because all characters are going to be able to cap off at level 30, and then eventually what you're going to need to do is you're either going to need to pull dupes or you're going to need to buy soul stones from the in-game shop. Now, this isn't as bad as it might sound because getting these stones is not very difficult. There is actually going to be a store that is going to be over here that you can buy these from, so it's actually not too bad. And there's actually other ways that you can pick them up too, such as your proficiency with the character, where basically what you can do is the more that you play with the character, eventually you will be able to get more soul stones sent to your inbox for that character. So building these characters is really not all that difficult. So as you guys can see here, these are going to be some of the stones that I can buy right now with this currency, and this currency, it drops from a dungeon, so this is something I can do on a daily basis, which is how I'm building a lot of my characters, especially my legendaries. So it's really not all that bad, and in general, honestly, you guys, you can build these characters up pretty quickly as long as you are spending and making sure that you are looking into the different menus correctly and trying to adjust and pivot accordingly to whatever character it is that you're trying to prioritize. It really isn't going to be that big of a deal. So building characters is honestly really rewarding, and there is a major penchant put on your combat power. So over here on the right hand side, if you look below my roster here, right below my Karen, you are going to see my team combat power is 69,000. Now basically the biggest thing that you want to do in Seven Knights 2 is you want to build up your team CP and your account CP. So those are two very different things. So as you guys can see, my team CP is going to be displayed just where I showed you guys, and then if we go over here to this menu, you'll see down at the bottom in the middle, you will see my username along with my level of my account. And if we go ahead and click on the little icon there, you guys can see down here at the bottom we are actually going to have this mileage. Now this mileage is really cool. What this is based on is your overall account combat power. So you'll see my account combat power is 373,000, and basically what happens as you gain this combat power, you're going to unlock these tiers, and as you unlock these tiers, you're going to get these different items, of which you can get some summon tickets, you can get some loot, you can get characters, which is a huge deal. And honestly, some of these characters in here are incredible. Like this normal Shane here is absolutely busted for free-to-play players as far as a budget unit. She is amazing for budget players. So there's a lot of really good stuff in here. You know, I actually recently got this Rachel. as Rachel is one of the better DPSs currently available in the entire game, and she is a wonderful boon to your account. And overall, eventually you will end up being able to get a legendary plus Shane, which is probably the second highest DPS in the game at the moment, probably behind Cassette. So in general, it may seem like it's very far off trying to get to 2 million, but as you guys can see, I'm already at 373,000, and it's only been out for about a week now. So another thing that's really cool about this game that I really like about it is going to be the fact that in these events here, what they do with the logins, and I don't know if this is still available because this was available over the course of the launch week. However, if it is not, that is a major sad face for all of you guys out there who have not picked this game up yet, because basically there was a 7-day login streak, which I can't show you here because I've already completed it, that ended up rewarding you with what, in my opinion, is probably the best character in the game currently. Now, arguably, she might not be considered the best character in the game available on global currently for some people if they are going to put more of a penchant on things such as DPS. At that point, Cassette is probably going to be that character. But Karen here is low-key, absolutely nerf-worthy. This character will carry you through story mode in the biggest way possible. Like currently, I think that the recommended CP for Lizadria, that is going to be the boss for the stage I'm on in the normal difficulty, is like somewhere around like 85 to 89,000 CP, and as you guys can see, I'm at 69, and I'm able to get through that without much of a problem. And the reason for that is because of this lady right here. So that 7-day login streak, if you're a new player, you will be rewarded with this character, and she is so good. She is the best healer in the game, period, end of story, no questions. She has an entire full team res on her kit for her ultimate, and she is just absolutely busted. So she is a big reason to make sure you log in each and every single day, especially if that login bonus is still currently available. But speaking of skills, all of these characters, now that we've kind of talked about how you have gear, which, you know, is kind of a normal thing that you'll see with RPG style games, which gear in general, you guys don't have to worry about legendary gear and all that stuff. In fact, gear is extremely easy to come by. Again, I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds with a lot of this stuff, but you can even craft gear. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, and I'll get into that in a later guide, but at the same time, you can do that. You can also go in and you can grind gear through dungeons and some of these different events. But basically, if we take a look at our heroes here, you are going to have all these different skills that you can level up, and these skills, basically the way that you would be able to level these up is you would want to go over here to enhance skill, and you guys can see it's going to cost you a little bit of gold to do so. You're going to need to meet the actual level cap requirement for the character in order to be able to unlock the next tiers. Otherwise, there is actually gear that can actually spike these kind of retroactively as well, which is cool. But in general, there's plenty of different ways you can do this. You can build your character super quick, not a big deal, especially if you're making sure to properly grind things. Now, another really cool thing, speaking of gear, and a good way that you can get this gear, is if you go in here to your field exploration, this is going to cost maps. Now, maps are one of the more important things in the game, in my opinion, because basically what these are going to allow you to do is they are going to allow you to play these field operations, and there are different difficulties for these. I've already pretty much done most all the easy ones, and I'm working on these normal ones right now and trying to grind some of these higher rarity gears. But if you go in here, one of the cool things is you can take in your team, you can set your team up, you can take them in, you can grind through these fields, and as you grind through these fields, you're going to be collecting loot, and a lot of this loot is going to be things such as gear, and these things can even drop legendary gear in some of these higher rarity ones or these higher tier difficulty ones. So that's really cool, but you can also grind gold this way. Bigger thing though, you can grind rubies. Now, rubies are going to be the main way that you are going to be summoning heroes. So you can actually grind rubies in this game, which is super cool. This game, in my opinion, is very free to play friendly as long as you are not chasing the legendary plus tier characters. In fact, whenever I make the guide talking about how you should spend, the nice thing about this game is you're going to find that there are actually better things sometimes to be spending on, even outside of your characters, and that's actually pretty interesting. So in general, this is a really, really fun little way of doing this. I really like that they allow for you to grind these things, so cool stuff. Now, speaking of things that you can spend on with your rubies that are not going to be characters, and then I'll actually show you guys some banners, but as you guys can see here, this is going to be your account mastery. So basically what this means is you're going to be able to use these different buffs and unlock these different buffs, and these are actually going to cost you rubies. However, these things are extremely important, because the biggest thing that you want to do, if you go back and think about how we're talking about our account CP, our team CP being the biggest deal in this game, this is going to help you do that in a huge way, and you're going to get these different perks that you can kind of alternate through and set yourself, kind of customize your account's perks. So this is really cool. Now, these do get expensive. However, I would argue that they are very much worth it, especially when you see things like, oh, I don't know, increasing your damage dealt to your enemies by 15%. Big deal, you guys. This is a very important little tree, and I'll talk more about it in a future guide. Again, I'm just trying to give you guys a quick overview. Now, outside of your characters, and then I'll show you guys banners real quick, you also have pets. So basically, you can use a friend's pet if you can't get a good pet yourself. I always recommend, if you have a friend that is going to have a red pet, definitely use that, because that person is definitely going to be someone who wants to buy a lottery ticket, because the odds of you getting a red pet are slim to none when it comes to the rates. So basically, what you want to do, you can set up yourself with your friend's pet, as you guys can see down here by my little auto button. I don't know if you guys can see that down in the bottom right hand side with that pink heart. That's my friend's pet there, and basically those pets are going to have different effects. Now, these different effects can be absolutely game breaking, as you guys can see with this one here. She has all sorts of different effects. She's going to have her own cooldown, just like character skills, so on and so forth. Otherwise, if you want to, you can use your own pet. So for instance, I have all these down here, and these are going to be the different little pets that I can attach to my team, and basically I can go ahead and get those perks and those passives whenever I use them or have them attached to my team. So that's basically what you're looking at there. Now, other things, there is a codex, and this basically is going to help you build up your CP and keep track of your progress artificially that way, so that's another really cool thing. And then there's other things in these tabs, like for instance guilds. If you guys are interested, I do have a guild. I have a little bit of room left, but not much, so if you guys want to get in there, it is open to everyone. But I do have a guild here, and I do highly recommend that you guys get into a guild immediately upon getting into the game, because you definitely want to start collecting these points. These points are going to allow for you to get these things from this in-game shop, including things like your hero summon tickets, your equipment summon tickets, your pet summon tickets, and these account buffs that are going to be a global account buff for 24 hours, which are really cool. So in general, you guys, you want to be in a guild, so make sure you get into one. You also are going to have, speaking of guilds, there's my guild mates there, and then you have your achievements, and so on and so forth. These are things that your guild can help unlock, and of course you can progress that way. So pretty interesting stuff. Now, I am going to go ahead and show you guys banners here real quick. Now, when it comes to the different emporiums and shops in here, there's plenty of different things. The biggest thing that I do want to point out before we talk about those banners right there in the middle is going to be the Mole Emporium, because this is really important. I'm going to do a guide on this, but basically a couple of times a day you're going to be able to go in here, because this is going to refresh, and pick up a bunch of these different items. Now, this thing can have your legendary gear in here as well, which is another way that you can pick up gear. Typically it's going to be quite a bit of gold, but if you're farming correctly, you should have a decent amount of gold. However, the biggest thing is every time this thing refreshes, you're going to be able to pick up these maps. These maps are super important, like I've already mentioned, for those field operations that we talked about. So in general, you guys, this is a super important tab in this game, and if you ever want to know when it refreshes, down in the bottom left hand side you'll see the little timer, and it'll tell you when it is going to refresh. So that is what we've got as far as the Mole Emporium. Now, when it comes to banners, let's talk about banners. So there's a bunch of different banners. Now, in general, what's going to happen here, you are going to have a pity system. So you'll see over here in the bottom left-hand side that I do have loyalty points because I have gone in on this a little bit, although I am retired from it now because I am not going to continue to chase this character. But you'll see that you will be able to, as you go ahead and go through these tiers, pick up more summon tickets. Now, any ticket you get, whether it is a free ticket or a ticket that you get from, just buying it through maybe gold or whatever the case may be, wherever you're picking up tickets are going to count towards your mileage down here in the bottom right hand corner. So below Cosette's image here, you will see that I do have a mileage. So in general, this mileage is going to help you out a little bit with the rates. I'm not going to show the rates in this video. As I've already mentioned though, when it comes to the legendary plus tier characters, I wouldn't recommend chasing after them too hard because the odds of you getting them off of banners like this are very, very low. You're better off at that point going in on a banner like this and taking your time. It's going to be something that is going to require a different currency, which is going to be something that is going to be few and far between. However, from what I've heard, there are going to be plenty of ways that you can get tickets for this and events that are going to give tickets for this down the road, and then that way you can go ahead and parlay those into this eventually, so that way you have a better chance at whatever legendary plus tier character you're wanting. Otherwise, the better way of going about things and spending as far as banners, in my opinion, is to go in on these rate up summons, because these are going to be a little more lenient. In fact, I have gotten a ton of copies of Rudy and Spike from this, so this is actually going to be a really, really nice little way of getting these characters. The regular legendary characters do not seem to be too tough to come by. In fact, for the 7-day login bonus, or the 30-day login bonus, sorry. The 30-day login bonus is actually going to be a random ticket for a free legendary character. So in general, they are going to be pretty generous with the legendary tier characters, at which point, in my opinion, if you guys are wondering, you would want to go for Rudy first over Spike. Spike's more of a PvP character. Rudy is going to be the best tank in the game. But when it comes to other things in here, I've already kind of briefly touched on those. You're going to have your equipment summons, which I largely ignore, but that is there. I don't really recommend it because, again, gear is very easy to come by in general. And then over here you do have your pet summons, which the rates are exceedingly low for these legendary little pets here, so these red pets or whatever you want to call them. So in general, I think I'm kind of tapped out on this. I've gotten enough pets at this point to where I think I'm going to be okay for the most part, so I'm just going to hold off and just collect tickets or something like that and maybe get lucky down the road. But in general, guys, just as a brief overview, those are going to be kind of your different ways of summoning. And then if you go over here to the general shop, you're going to have all sorts of tabs. I'm going to do a guide on what you should be spending on in here, but in general, there's a lot of different things in here, but everything is going to have a currency basically, so you're going to have all sorts of different ways of picking these things up. So then you have the outfit shop. Now the outfit shop really isn't anything I'm going to get too much into in today's video, but there are going to be different outfits that you can pick up for a different type of currency as well, so you've got that going on. Now, other things in here before we wrap this up as just a basic intro to the game, you are going to have your arena, so you will have a normal and a competitive, and you are going to be handsomely rewarded for playing the normal especially. There are a ton of rubies that you can pick up. Now, I am actually a very high tier. I am the challenger tier. I played a ton of games last week. However, this week I've been testing different characters. Now that I have Rachel, now I have Karen, now I have some more of these characters. So I haven't necessarily played as many, nor have I had as much luck as I had last week, but hey, I'm not doing terrible this week. But at the same time, last week I think it was like 130 something and like 25 or something. So, but basically this is going to be what you're going to be taking a look at down here. You'll see for each of these tiers, you are going to be able to get a bunch of different rubies and topaz, both of which are going to be extremely important currencies. Of course, rubies are going to be for your banners, and then the topaz is going to be very, very important because that is going to have a ton of really, really cool items in that in-game shop. Again, I will go over that later in a different video, but just as a brief summary, that's what you're looking at there. Now, when it comes to overall arena, is mainly going to just be hands-off, just like the rest of the gameplay, where you're basically just going to let your team go go crazy and attack a different team. It isn't necessarily going to be something you have to set on auto because it's not going to give you the option. Unfortunately, it's just going to automatically auto that, but in general, not too bad. It's kind of fun to watch, and some of those games can be nail biters as well. So other things in here, you have your dungeons, you have like a gold dungeon, a soul stone, you have all these different dungeons. Very, very important that you guys do these each day. Again, when I do a guide, I will talk more about that. And then you're also going to have a tower system. Now this tower has some really, really cool rewards in it at points. You can get rubies, you can get all sorts of really important stuff in here. So this thing is definitely something you want to make sure that you do every day. And then other things in here, you're also going to have raids. Now these raids you can either do as a single player raid for some of them, or you can go in and play with other players. This is where you start to get into some of the more MMO aspects, where this is kind of like you going in and raiding a dungeon with other players, so you can get into a queue and so on and so forth. There's all sorts of different things that you can do in here. So those are going to kind of be just kind of your general overall dungeons and raids and things like that. But in general, you guys, other things that you should make sure that you do whenever you're playing this game is you are also going to have your friends tab. You want to make sure that you have a bunch of friends, because whenever you have friends, you can go ahead and send and claim these coins. These coins you can go in and buy very important things, mainly these retry tickets for some of these different things in here, which are very, very important, and I highly recommend, especially these guys here. These Soulstone Quarry entry tickets are of the utmost importance, but in general, that's kind of what you're looking at there. So make sure you're being friendly and accepting friend requests and sending those out to people. You're also going to have daily missions, monthly missions, achievements, so on and so forth. So you have this little tab here that is going to go ahead and walk you through that. And then you can just hit the little go button on any of the ones that you're wanting to do, and you can go in and you can do those as well. So anyway, you guys, that is pretty much, I think, going to do it for the basic overview of the game. I just wanted to cram as much as into this video as I could about some of these different menus and so on and so forth, and give you guys just kind of a basic overview of what you're looking at with this game. So like I said, this game is a whole hell of a lot of fun. I am really, really enjoying it, and I am going to be bringing plenty of different guides on a bunch of these different things. Like I said, I am not going to get too deep into the weeds on major details on a lot of this stuff in this video, because I am going to be kind of taking it piece by piece with these guides, and I'll probably be starting that later on this week, so stay tuned for that. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it informative. I definitely think that you guys should give this game a try, see if you like it, you know, maybe play it for a few days, see if it's something that is going to be up your alley. But if you're a fan of Final Fantasy style graphics and kind of even storyline beats and things along those lines, and you're somebody who really enjoys open world kind of dungeon crawlers and raid systems with other players, this is going to be a game I think that you're probably really going to like. Or heck, even if you're just somebody that enjoys customizing and building characters, there's a lot of different stuff in here. I've only touched the surface of what's in here, so in general, you guys, we will have plenty to talk about as we go through this game. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. You all take care. Peace.
Continue.